Hey guys, welcome back to We Watch Movie. I'm Mike, he's Jay, considerably, and we're reviewing Skyfall, the woman who lives next door. Darkness, up on top.
We're gonna review
the Spectre. Basically, all the past movies get tied together, which is a Bond no-no. You're not supposed to do that shit with Bond.
Why?
They weirdly tie all the Craig movies together.
I liked it. It was great. It was obviously Daniel Craig at his finest. There's no doubt that James Bond is Daniel Craig. Daniel Craig is James Bond. That's the way we do it, Confucius say. It's going to be so hard for anybody to follow up a Daniel Craig, James Bond, because he has put his dick in the vagina of everybody's mind as James Bond.
Yeah, it's
he's
weird.
triple stamped it. He's triple stamped it, Harry.
He's today's version of you can't triple stamp a double stamp.
Well, sometimes if you're Daniel Craig, you can't.
He's today's version of Sean Connery. Like I think,
right, exactly.
Pierce Brosnan's my all-time favorite Bond. He's not the best Bond. He's just my personal favorite. It was the first Bond movie I saw in theaters was GoldenEye. But Daniel Craig, it's like, I don't know if he's the best Bond, but I don't think there's any doubt when you put his body of work up against everyone else's body of work, maybe not.
I thought you were going to just say his body. That's like baldy.
That too. You know,
yeah.
It's spectacular.
It's spectrish.
When you put his body of work up against everybody else, maybe Sean Connery and those two fight, but like his 4 movies as a whole, like might be the best 4 movies of any Bond series. But this felt like the last Daniel Craig movie. I'm not going to give anything away, but it felt like the last Daniel Craig movie.
The thing is, as far as what the thing that kind of skyfalls it. Okay. Look at that corny joke. It fell down. There were some aspects of that was boring. When it was getting to certain aspects of the story, you'd be like, I don't give a shit. And then sometimes the action didn't really come in the way that I wanted it to be delivered. It just came in a way. And I know everybody loves Skyfall. Skyfall was fucking amazing. And following up that movie with anything else would be hard enough. But I love Casino Royale, personally, as my #1 favorite.
Baby does too.
Yeah, she is. She's all about it. She's fucking squealing like a little girl.
So it comes in at 2.5 hours, right? It doesn't need to be. For one, there's so many lingering shots in this fucking movie. Like every shot up to the last shot is like it's lingering. It's like some of the shit did not need to be so long. I like what they did with the story, okay? The bad guys were casted amazingly, but let's talk about the bad guys.
Okay, let's talk about Dave Bautista.
Dave Bautista, super badass. Like he's perfect for the role he plays. He's a badass, and there's something, I won't give away what the scene is, but there's a really, really badass scene, for me maybe the best scene in the movie, that throws back to the best scene from Russia with Love. They do a tie into that kind of, and there's a fight scene that is amazingly badass with Bautista. And Bautista, he doesn't speak in the movie. He has maybe 1-word lines, but he's a badass, like formidable physical specimen for Bond to go up against. And when you're talking about that, you're talking like, look at Quantum of Solace. Like the movie was whatever, like it was terrible at first, but now when you watch it, you're like, it was okay. No matter what though, you can't deny that the bad guy was a weakling. He was a little shit. In this, you might have Christoph Waltz. He's not a physical specimen to fight James Bond, but they replaced that with Bautista as a sideman, and it worked great.
By the way, the helicopter scene at the very beginning of the movie, fucking phenomenal. Loved it. That thing was intense.
It was great, but that was the next point I was going to get to. Like the opening scene, everybody knows when Bond opens up, there's a great scene. There's a great action scene, and then you go into the credit scene. So let's talk about the action scene. The action scene was good. The action scenes were good. There was enough action scenes in this movie, but the problem I have with it is that like the great Bonds, when you think about Skyfall, when I think about Casino Royale, there were scenes in it that stood above the other ones. In this, like the scenes looked good, the cinematography was great, it was filmed awesome, Daniel Craig was a badass, the action scenes were good, the fight sequences were good, but there was just nothing new. There was nothing, this movie doesn't stand, to me as a whole, this movie was really good. But it doesn't stand out. When you put it up against all the other, it just doesn't stand out. There was no particular scene that was like, oh, that came from Spectre. No, like if there's a helicopter fight, it was good. We've seen a helicopter fight before. There's a train fight. It was good, but we've seen a train fight before. Like they didn't do anything wrong, but there's nothing that just stands out in this movie.
I agree with you.
Each of Daniel Craig's movies have had their own feel to it. This just felt like kind of a sequel to Skyfall. It didn't feel like its own movie. It was really good, and it was done well, and it was done perfectly, and it looked good, and the acting was good. There's nothing wrong with it. But like you said, Christoph Waltz. It's Christoph Waltz. You think, fucking perfect Bond villain, right?
No doubt.
He was underused. Everything you saw him do in the trailer was basically what he did. He had a few really good lines. He was the henchman, I mean, not the henchman, but he was the bad guy. He had the domination plan. He had a few good lines, but there was no oomph to him. Javier Bardem had a way better character.
Way better.
He had a way better character who was way more interesting.
And he actually looked intimidating. Yeah. Like Javier Bardem, that guy looks scary as shit. Like that's the kind of guy that probably runs the cartel in Mexico. You know that guy means business. This guy just like Christopher Waltz, like Christoph Waltz, the way that they wrote him or scripted him, there's no intimidation factor with him. He just feels like a disgruntled secretary employee.
The one thing that stands above the other ones to me is that it's fun because in Casino Royale, Bond they kind of rebooted it, right? He was just starting out. He was rough. He fucked up all the time, stuff like that.
I kind of like that though.
Right.
I like
Quantum of Solace was Quantum of Solace, and then Skyfall. He had this whole resurrection. That whole thing, like he was gruff and he had all this fucked up shit going on, and he was trying to make a comeback, and he was all shaky and stuff. In this, we finally get the Daniel Craig era version of full-on Bond. He doesn't fuck up. He's a badass. He comes out, and it's believable because you've seen the story arc. You've seen him grow. Mm-hmm. He's full-on 100% Bond at this point. He's walking around with an assault rifle in one arm and just popping people from 100 yards away. And
much like myself.
And some people have said, they're like, it's not believable. It's too much. It's not believable. And I'm like, fuck you, man. That's Bond. No, Bond is great because Bond's great.
You're right.
And he's full-on great, badass, super 5,000 agent Bond in this, and I love that. He was a badass motherfucker. He didn't fuck up at all. There was no rough and tumble to him. He wasn't coming back from anything. This is the first time we've seen Daniel Craig as Bond not be a broken man. He's the full-on, I've got cockiness for fucking days. I will fuck shit up with one pistol against 8,000 people in a heartbeat. Bond.
That's the James Bond you want to see. I'll fuck a girl against this wall and shoot that motherfucker and then drink a martini at the same time because I can do those things. Mm-hmm. But yes, there are moments in this. You're right. I agree with you 100%. I think that Daniel Craig completely embraces his character as James Bond. I mean, he has obviously been James Bond, no doubt about it. One of the best James Bonds ever. But in this movie, he really, really fucking nails the character down the way that I think it was always intended to be as James Bond. And there are moments in it because they do tie it together that Christoph Waltz makes him relive what he's lost, where he couldn't save certain people's, and you can see that, but it's like he's overcome that now. He's like, I'm 2 steps above you, bro. Yeah, but he's basically Linkin Park. Yeah. He's like, in the end, it fucking doesn't matter. But yeah, he's just like, you know what?
He's whimsical, dude.
He is. He's got that melancholy kind of thing, mystique going with him, but at the same time, he's like, throw that shit at my face, I'll spit that back in your face because I'm James fucking Bond.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I gave Skyfall an 8.5. I'm gonna give this an 8. Because it hit a bunch of really cool areas. I mean, like I said, my favorite thing is that Bond is full-on Bond. You can't fucking touch him. You can't hurt his feelings. You can't make him feel bad about what he ate for lunch. He's full-on Bond and full-on badass, and that's the one thing that stands out. Other than that, it's just a solid, well-made movie all the way throughout. A little bit too long, and there's a lot of stuff that they wanted to feel special, a lot of tie-ins, and like, they tied in all the movies together, and they want these big reveals to happen, and you just don't feel it. You're just whatever.
I give it an 8.5 as well. I think that it was an amazing movie. I think that they did a lot with it that was awesome, and I think that Daniel Craig does embody James Bond in the way that everybody wanted him to embody him nonstop. And like I said, James Bond, Daniel Craig, they're one and the same.
So until next time, guys, thank you guys for watching. What's your favorite Bond movie of all time? Do you think Daniel Craig's movies stand up against Sean Connery's movies? Until next time, follow us out. We watch the movie. Click that subscribe button. Get swam up in J.
Yep.
We watched a movie, yeah. We watched a movie.